What is up, guys? It's your boy Steady Chaos. So the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, everybody knows they're hard to come by right now. And unfortunately, it looks like their supply could be limited until the second half of this year. Let's talk about it. Alright guys, so I was browsing N4G today and I stumbled across an article by VideoGamesChronicle.com where they talk about this very issue of really high demand for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Just how frustrating it's been for people to find these consoles, and not only simply find them, but to find them at MSRP price. It's been incredibly difficult, if not impossible, especially to find the PlayStation 5 at $499 for the disc-based version and $399 for the digital version. And even the Xbox Series X has been pretty hard to come by. It's a multitude of factors. It's the fact that it's an exciting new release. You know, consoles are always pretty scarce at first. It's the fact that we have a pandemic. It's the fact that a lot of these consoles are being sold digital only or online only. You can't really go into a store and buy a PlayStation 5. And it's also the fact that scalping has gotten just out of control precisely because many of these consoles are being sold digitally or online. So scalpers employ these bots. You know the story, I don't need to tell you. The bot scoops right in, buys every single console, and then all of a sudden a scalper has 15 PlayStation 5s, and instead of selling them at $500 or even $600, they're selling them at $750, $800, $850. You know, we're talking $350 markup. So all of these factors have sort of come together to create just an extreme scarcity of consoles. So now at this point we are in January 28th to be exact, and most people expected by now that we would see some greater supply of these consoles. After all, one expects supply of these hot new items to be kind of tight in December because, you know, Christmas. All these parents want to get these hot new tech items for their kids. All these kids want their parents to get this hot new tech item for them. So it makes a measure of sense that they would be scarce in December leading into Christmas. But now we're 4 or 5 weeks removed from Christmas and we are still really scarce on supply. If you go to now in stock for PlayStation 5, look at everything. Everything is out of stock, unless of course you want to once again go to eBay and buy an $800 or $900 console from a reseller or a scalper, which I imagine you don't want to do. That's why you're watching this video. So yeah, all the major vendors, everything's out of stock, and it's no better for the Xbox Series X. All the major vendors, everything's out of stock, again, unless of course you want to go to eBay. And it's not just the consoles, it's the RTX 3080 card. Look, everything is out of stock. So yeah, almost into February and supply is still incredibly scarce. And so in this particular article by VGC, they talk to the CEO of AMD and they kind of get some insight into when we can expect more supply to become more readily available, at least. And Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD, said she expects some tightness, that's kind of vague, but some tightness during the first 6 months of the year before things pick up in the second half. So you're talking, in the second half, you're talking between July and December. Hopefully by then, supply is more readily available, but then once you get into September, October, November, you're back into another Christmas season. You're back into, you know, just vociferous buying of PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series X's, which could again exacerbate supply issues. So my goodness, huh? Sue goes on to state, it's fair to say that the overall demand exceeded our planning, and as a result, we did have some supply constraints as we ended the year. You think some supply constraints? Those were primarily, I would say, in the PC market, the low end of the PC market, and in the gaming markets, for sure in the gaming market. I'm not even sure what she's talking about, just the low end of the PC market. It's the high end of the PC market with Nvidia and their GPUs, the Ampere line of GPUs, and especially the BIG NAVI GPUs and the 68 and 6900 XT cards. That being said, she goes on, I think we're getting great support from our manufacturing partners. The industry does need to increase the overall capacity levels, and we do see some tightness through the first half of the year, but there is added capacity in the second half. So I'm not sure, she doesn't really say how they're adding capacity in the second half. Is it simply more manufacturing units and assembly lines opening, or is it the fact that maybe towards the end of 2021, AMD is going to start transitioning to 5 nanometer for its CPUs and GPUs, or at least its CPUs, and then by then, maybe there'll be more manufacturing capacity capacity on the 7nm node for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, so maybe that'll generate more consoles. And then they go on to talk to Microsoft about these supply constraints, and they say similar things. Microsoft said it expects Xbox Series X and S supply shortages to continue at least through April. So that's a little bit better of a scenario. You're not talking June, July there, you're talking April, which is only, what, 2-3 months out. So that would be preferable. You know, and Xbox claims they're doing everything they can to produce as many consoles as possible. They're not intentionally holding back supply to create a frenzy in the market, to really elevate demand. They say that they're pumping out as many as they can, they just simply can't keep up, and they attribute it mostly to the pandemic. So Xbox boss Phil Spencer revealed that he contacted chipmaker AMD to ask if they could ramp up manufacturing to try and meet demand. You know, he says, I get some people asking, why didn't you build more? Why didn't you start earlier? Why didn't you ship them earlier? All of those things, Spencer said. It's really just down to physics and engineering. We're not holding them back. We're building them as fast as we can. We have all the assembly lines going. I was on the phone last week with Lisa Su at AMD asking, how do we get more? So it's something that we're constantly working on. So Xbox and Microsoft are working on pumping out more supply. Sony and PlayStation 5 are working on pumping out more supply. AMD is working on pumping out more supply of their GPUs. You know, I'm sure Nvidia is trying to get more supply of the 3080s and 3090s, at least I hope, because those are incredibly scarce as well. So it's a multitude of factors that we talked about in the opening of this video. It's the pandemic, it's digital sales, it's scalping, it's the fact that these are hot new items. So the demand is just really high, and it looks like things really aren't going to get better, at least for the Xbox, until April or May, and maybe even later. And then for Sony, which is even in higher demand than the Xbox, it might not get better till June, July, August, maybe September. And then for the RTX 3000 series and the Big Navi GPUs, forget it. I have no idea when that's going to get better, because supply on those is ridiculously tight. I mean, you have MSRP on the 3080 is $700, and it's being sold for $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 on eBay. It's getting marked up by more than double in some instances, which is just insane. You know, according to Sony, they have also struggled to meet, quote, unprecedented consumer demand for the PlayStation 5, which enjoyed, quote, the biggest console launch of all time, end quote, according to the company. So, you know, and of course the article goes on to say that shortages have been exacerbated by scalper groups using software to automatically buy consoles as they come in stock before reselling large quantities online at significant markups, as we've talked about. So I just wanted to get this video out to my subscribers and to the YouTube community in general who are interested in, you know, the next gen consoles, the RTX 3000 series of GPUs, the Big Navi GPUs, and these people are wondering, or at least they're hoping, okay, it's late January, Christmas is 4 or 5 weeks removed, we're heading into February, things should be getting better, right? Well, I just want to let you guys know that not necessarily. Yes, slowly through February, March, things might get slightly better. We might get a few more drops here and there, but scalping is going to continue. As long as people are willing to spend $700, $800, $900 on a PlayStation 5, $600, $700, $800 on an Xbox Series X, scalping will continue. As long as the pandemic continues to play a role in our lives and companies like Microsoft and Sony decide to sell mainly online to avoid in-person sales and the spread of the disease, then scalpers will continue to use bots to buy up available supply. So I hate to be the harbinger of bad news, but if you are waiting to find a PlayStation 5 or an RTX 3000 card or a Big Navi GPU at MSRP price and you refuse to go to a reseller market, it looks like here, according to this article and according to what Microsoft and Sony are saying, you may have to wait not just several more weeks, but several more months. So that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I figured you guys should know. Anyway, if you found this video informative, please leave a like, leave a comment down below, and if you can, please subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out. And until next time, guys, we will see you later, hopefully with better news.